Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kuli English Podcast. It's me, your host, Chris. Today is April 26th, and this is the 9th time I'm recording this episode. So today, I want to tell you about how I got sick, and then I went to 4 clinics by mistake. And we all know what getting sick means, right? Sick is like sick, and nobody likes getting sick. So anyways, about 2 years ago, I was going to a Japanese language school. So that's Monday to Friday, about 3 hours a day. And there's a class of like 20 students, and I'm one of the students. And there's like one Japanese teacher who's teaching the class. But anyways, once I had like a sore throat, like my throat felt itchy, and I had like a runny nose, and I also kept like coughing. And then it was like this for like 2 weeks, which is pretty long. Like it didn't get worse, but it didn't get better. And then like during class, I was coughing all the time. So then people sitting next to me would be like, ew. And they don't want to sit next to me. They want to sit somewhere else. And it makes sense, right? Like nobody wants to sit next to like a sick guy, and I'm the sick guy. But then, I felt like I was causing other people trouble. So then like the next day I stayed at home and I didn't go to school. I just stayed at home and I drank a lot of hot water, like that's like the typical stuff that you try to do to get better. I don't actually know if like drinking hot water is good for you, but that's what I hear a lot from Asian people, and it probably doesn't hurt, so I just did that. But anyways, I also emailed the teacher. I was like, hi, I'm sick, so I'm going to take a couple days off, which means I'm going to like stay home and rest. And the teacher, he emailed me back, and he was like, oh, that's unfortunate. Please come to class tomorrow. And then, the next day I was still sick, so of course I didn't go to school. And then, the teacher sent me another email, and it said, Chris, you also did not come to class today. You must come to class tomorrow. There will be something very important. Please do not take the day off. And I remember being so surprised at the time because, like, in the US, if you're sick and you stay home, like, that's the right thing to do. You don't want to get other people sick, so you stay home, especially since COVID was a thing. Like everyone had to quarantine. And then if you gave someone COVID, like you got to tell them sorry. And if you gave your friend's girlfriend COVID, then you got to say, oh, sorry, friend's girlfriend. And then if you give like your friend's mom's cousin's like COVID or something, then you got to say, oh, friend's mom's cousin, I'm so sorry. But, I thought like staying home is like a normal thing, but that's not how it is in a Japanese school. And it's also different in like Japanese working culture, not just school, but like in a company, if you get sick and you need to stay home, you got to spend your vacation days. You need to spend your UQ. But like, anyways, now I kind of understand what the teacher was thinking. Okay, so he was thinking like, Chris, you're sick? Oh, too bad. You still need to come. But at the time, I didn't really understand it. So like, I'm not going to go if I don't want to go. I'm paying the school. So, but anyways, yeah, that teacher hated me. So anyways, let's get back to talking about my sickness. So I was doing everything I was supposed to do, right? Like I slept early, I drank a lot of hot water, and I was even eating like a lot of vegetables. Like I went to this place called Otoya, which is like a Japanese chain restaurant famous for healthy food. And I would order like the vegetable sets and then eat those. And it tastes really healthy. But I still wasn't getting any better. So then I thought, okay, it's time. It's time to see a doctor. And I wouldn't go to the doctor if it was just like a few days, but it's been like 2 weeks, so it's doctor time. So I opened up Google Maps and I did something really cool, right? I was like, bro, I've been studying Japanese. I know how to use Japanese. So then I searched byoin, which is Japanese for hospital, and then there were a bunch of places that popped up, ping, 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 and then but actually most of them were closed, and it was 3 p.m. on a weekday, which is kind of surprising, I think. Like, where do all the sick people go? Oh, I guess you can't get sick during normal work hours. Only on weekends. I'm just kidding. But there were like 5 places that were open. So I just picked one that had high ratings on Google Maps, like a 4 stars place. And then I went straight there. And you might be thinking, wait. A smart person would first look at the reviews and make sure it's a good place. Or you might be thinking, wait, a smart person would first call and make a reservation, like to make an appointment. And you're right, that's what a smart person would do. But I am not a smart person. So I just went there with no reservation. And of course, I wore a mask because, I might be stupid, but at least I'm nice. So I didn't want to get other people sick. And you know what happened when I got there? Let's take a little short break and we'll continue after. Okay, so let's continue. We're talking about my adventure to try to find a doctor. And anyways, I walked into this place with no reservation, and then someone greeted me. They were like, "Hi, is it your first time here?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 it is." And they were like, "Oh, okay, sure, no problem. Can you fill out this form?" And then they gave me this form to fill out some information, and it's like normal information, like your name, your address, your phone number, like that kind of stuff. So I sat down and I started to fill it out. And then I noticed that ever since I walked in, there were two receptionists, so like two front desk staff, and they just kept they just kept looking at me, like they're staring at me. And I wasn't sure, but I think they weren't looking at my face. Like I think they were looking at my hair. Maybe because my hair is like spiky. I don't know. But anyways, I filled out the form about halfway, and then I got to the second half, and I couldn't really read it. I mean, I'm going to Japanese school for a reason, right? So then I went up to the staff and I said, "Hey, actually, I can't read this. What information do you need?" And then one of the two people that were staring at me, he stood up and he came over and he asked me, "Oh, what product do you use for your hair?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "What product do you use for your hair? AGA?" And I was like, "Oh no, I use like an American brand. It's called like hair fiber." And this is true. Okay, that's what I still use it now. It's like a hair styling thing. And then the other guy, he was all like the guy that was staring at me. He stood up and he pointed at the wall behind him, and there's like three big posters on the wall, and then on the poster there's like two pictures of the same guy, the before and the after. And the before picture is a bald guy, and like he looks sad. He's like, "I'm bald and I'm sad." And the after picture is the same guy, but he's not bald and he's happy. And he's pointing to his head, which has hair, and he's like giving a thumbs up. And he's like, "Yeah, I got hair. I'm so happy." And all of these posters, they all have like a different bald guy. And the bald guy is like on the left and he's sad. And then when you go to the right to the after picture, then it's like the guy has hair and he's happy. And on top of all the posters, it says AGA. And I'm thinking, what is AGA? But then I told them, I was like, "Hey, I have a sore throat and a cough, and I want to see a doctor." And then they were like, "Oh, we're not that kind of place. We're a AGA clinic." And then like I understood. It clicked. Okay, so I understood. I was like, "Oh, I got it. AGA is for like hair loss. So people who are balding come to the clinic for treatment." And that would explain why they were like staring at my hair, because my hair is like really thick. Like my eyebrows are also really thick, and people make fun of me for it. You can make fun of me for it. I don't care. But it makes sense to me. And then they weren't asking like, "What hair product do you use to style your hair?" They were asking like, "What do you use for your baldness? Like, what medicine do you use for your balding?" And so I felt like an idiot. Okay, so I filled out the form like halfway for nothing, and then I had to go find like a real clinic. So this was failure number one. So let's take a short little music break, and then we'll talk about failure number two. Okay, so the first clinic was a bust. It was a failure. I wanted to see a doctor for my cough, but actually it was a hair loss clinic. Um, but this time, the second time, I was smarter. Okay, so like when you make embarrassing mistakes for something, like it's really easy to remember the mistake. So this time I opened Google Maps and I searched Byoing again, and then we're looking for a good hospital, like not a hair loss clinic, but like a hospital. And I found a place with really, really high ratings. And and because I'm a smart boy now, okay, I'm smart now. I actually looked at the reviews, and the reviews were really, really good. Like they all said, "Oh, this doctor is so nice," or they were like, "Oh, I came here without a reservation and it was okay." And then so I was like, "Oh wow, that's great. I don't need a reservation." And of course, there's also some like bad reviews too. But the bad reviews all just say like, "Oh, I came here and my insurance didn't work, so it was expensive. 1 star." And then I was like, "Okay, it's probably fine." So I got into the elevator, and I remember this story like quite clearly. I remember this story really well because it's a pretty embarrassing story, and it's kind of a long story. But here we go. So I got into the elevator, and there's like two girls already in the elevator, and they're going up. They're going up to the sixth floor because they're going to an izakaya, and I'm going to the 10th floor. That's where my clinic is. And then I got into the elevator, and the girls they're looking at the floors, and they see the 10th floor, and it says like Aozora Clinic, like Aozora Clinic, and they're like, 誰がそんなとこ行くの? Like, who even goes to that kind of place? And then like I didn't push my button yet, so they're like asking me like what floor, like 何階ですか? And I was like, oh, 10th floor. And then it was just dead silent. It was like completely quiet. And then well, sometimes I go like because I'm like kind of sick, and it was just really awkward. And then they finally got off, and I remember thinking like, dang dude, like why are you guys laughing at someone who needs to go to the clinic? Like, whatever. I don't really care. By the way, this isn't the embarrassing part. We're gonna come back to this later. But anyways, I got into the place, right? And it's like a super clean place. It was actually really, really well organized. They have like these tapes on the ground, and they tell you where to go. So they say like, oh, if you're a woman and you're getting tested for ABC, then like follow this red tape. And then if you're a guy and you're getting tested for XYZ, like follow this blue tape or something like that. It was a really nicely organized place. And then I walked up to the front desk, and I'm smarter this time, okay? So I tell them the most important stuff first, okay? I don't want to do like the hair clinic thing again. So I said, "Hi, I have a sore throat and a cough, and I'd like to see a doctor who can give me some medicine." And they were like, "Sure, of course, you can fill out this form." And I'm thinking like, yes, it's not a hair loss clinic. And then so yet again, I have this Japanese form that I got to fill out. And, like I tried my best. So I filled out my name, I filled out my address, I filled out my phone number. And then I got to like my medical history. So like what problems I've had with my health. And then I couldn't really read it. So I went back to the front staff and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I can't really read this. Do you guys have like an English form, or maybe you could help me read this?" And then the two receptionists, they like whispered to each other. They're like, "Kawasaki wasabi wasabi, Kawasaki wasabi wasabi." And then they're like, "Okay." And then the guy stood up and he says, "Come with me to the waiting room." And then so we start filling out the form together. And like he'll read the question out loud and then repeat it really slowly. And then I use Google Translate to look it up and then try to answer the question. And there were a bunch of like random health related questions. So for example, like any medications, which means like, do you take any medicine? Or how often do you consume alcohol? Which means like, how much do you drink? How often do you drink? And then the questions started getting really weird. Okay, so the next question was like, when was the last time that you had sex? Which means, actually, I'm not going to explain that. but I remember thinking like, this doesn't seem related to my cough. But to be fair, it is a normal question for a doctor to ask. So like even in the U.S., you do something that's called a physical, which is like a normal yearly checkup. And then in Japanese, it's a kenkou shindan. And then in a physical, like the doctor asks you a bunch of questions. It's like, do you take any medications? Do you take any medicine? How often do you consume alcohol? Like how much do you drink? Do you have a girlfriend? How often do you guys have sex? And then to me, it feels like a little bit awkward because, like when they ask, like, do you have a girlfriend? It feels like they're making conversation. It's like, oh, do you have any plans for Christmas break? Oh, travel, that's great. Where are you headed? Oh, Japan. Oh my God, that's so great. Do you have a girlfriend? How much do you have sex? but doctors are professionals, and they spend a lot of time studying this stuff. So you got to give the doctor as much information as possible so that they can give you the best recommendations for your health. But in this clinic that day for me, like I was thinking like, this probably isn't related to my cough. So then I asked the guy, I was like, "Hey, is it really important that I answer this? I just have a cough and I want to see the doctor. I just wanted to make sure I'm not doing something dumb, like I'm at a hair loss clinic or something like that." And then and the guy was really nice. He was like, "Oh, no, don't worry. This is a question we ask everyone. And we need to give the doctor as much information as possible so that they can give you the best recommendations for your health." And I was like, "Okay, sure, I guess so." And then we got to the next page, and things escalated fast, meaning it got intense like really quickly. The question was, have you recently engaged in any of the following activities? Meaning, did you do any of these recently? And the options were like, it was like mission sex, king, X, like everything. So I used Google Translate, and I still don't know what most of those mean. And I'm probably gonna censor. I'm probably gonna bleep. I'm gonna beep out most of what I just said. So all you need to know that there were a lot of questions about sex. Um, and so at this point, I told the guy, I was like, bro, I just have a sore throat and a cough, and I just want to see a doctor and get some medicine. And he was like, okay, okay, no problem. And then he went to go grab like a different sheet of paper. And he showed me this list of options. And he said, we offer these medicines. And then I looked at the list, but most of them were like in katakana or English, so I can read that. And then like they just have a bunch of these, and it's like one, chlamydia, two, syphilis, three, HIV, four, AIDS. And then I look up at the guy, and I was like, dude, I don't have these. Like I definitely don't have these. And he was like, oh yeah, well, you can get the medicine directly, but my personal recommendation is that you get tested, and then so you know what medicine will be the most effective for you. And if you take four tests or more at once, then it's 20% off. And I was like, no, 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 I don't have these. Like I have a cold, or like I have like a cough, a sore throat, and a running nose. It's not this. And he was like, oh, well, this is what our clinic does. We are that kind of clinic. And then I was like, oh, so, okay. So, this place is a clinic that like tests those kinds of things. And those things are called STDs, or sexually transmitted diseases. You don't actually know, you don't need to remember what it stands for. People just call it STDs. But anyways, this place is not like a normal clinic that you go to if you have a cold. So I felt like really, really embarrassed. Like I just wasted an hour of my life, and I also wasted like an hour of this poor employee's life. And he's like spending all this time reading these questions to me, and I'm like translating. So then I told the guy like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm trying to go to a normal clinic." And then he said, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm more sorry. I'm so sorry that I kept asking you like uncomfortable questions." And it's like it's not really his fault, but he's just being nice, I guess. He's being super nice because like if you say sorry to him, then he doesn't want you to feel bad. So he says, "Oh no, no, I'm the one who should be sorry. I'm more sorry." But then I left. I left the place. I left as a loser. Again, I went to the wrong clinic. And when I was in the elevator going down, I remembered, like, do you remember the girls in the elevator that were like, who even goes to a place like Alza Clinic? And then I was like, me. Yeah, but they were thinking that I have some kind of STD, and that's why I'm going to like the clinic. But I didn't really have an STD. I was just a dumb guy trying to find a doctor. But it's a pretty embarrassing story. But like we all learn from our mistakes, right? So that was failure number two. Surely the next one will be a success. So let's continue, but right after this music break. Okay, so you heard the most embarrassing part of the story. Like, I accidentally went to an STD clinic, and I didn't pay any money or anything, but I paid with time and embarrassment, like my feelings. But anyways, here we go. Here we go for the third clinic. So yet again, I pull out my phone and I open Google Maps, and I'm like, Google Maps, don't let me down, don't disappoint me. And then I found another clinic, and this time I wasn't about to make the same mistake again, right? So I called them, and I've already gone to two clinics, and both of those were mistakes. So that's not good. I don't want to make another mistake. So I picked up the phone, and they're like, "Hi, Yamanoto Clinic desu. This is Yamanoto Clinic." And then I said a lot of stuff from the beginning. I was like, "Hi, I have a cough and a sore throat, and I don't have hair problems. I don't have AGA. I don't have AIDS. I don't have chlamydia. I don't have syphilis. I just want to see a doctor." And they were like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" I said, "Boy." And they were like, "This is a breast cancer clinic." And I was like, "Oh." Okay, so this is another failure. Okay, so the third clinic was also unsuccessful. It's also a failure. But at least it was just a phone call, so I didn't waste that much time. But anyways, let's move on to clinic number 4. And boy, let me tell you, like at this time, I was thinking, like, dude, maybe I'm stupid. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to find a clinic, but like, how do I just keep messing it up? But anyways, here we go. So I opened up Google Maps and I searched Byoing, and then I found another place. And I called them. And I told them the usual thing. I was like, "Hi, I have a cough and a sore throat, and I don't have hair loss. I don't have AGA. I don't have AIDS. I don't have breast cancer." And by the way, in Japanese, it's pretty natural to do this thing called aizuchi, which is like sounds or words to show that you're listening. So like yeah, or like kind of nodding. There's no word for this in English because it's not really common in English. But like I was talking to this employee, and they gave me a lot of this aizuchi. They gave me a lot of these nods and affirmations, which is like a polite thing. But so like I'm saying like, "Hi, I have a cough and a sore throat." They're like, "Ah, hi, okay, yes." And I'm like, I don't have hair loss. I don't have AGA. Hi, okay, yes." And then I'm like, I don't have AIDS. And they're like, "Hey, okay, yes." And I'm like, "I don't have breast cancer." They're like, "Ah, hi, 確かに. Okay, yes." And I was just so ready for like another failure. But what they said was, "Okay, okay, okay. When do you want to come in now and we'll take a look?" And then like, thank God, like this time it was a normal clinic. I finally get to see a real normal doctor. It felt like I won a game, but I didn't know I was playing the game. So it's like, yes. So, anyways, I went there and they swabbed me, meaning they took like this little white cotton thing and they stick it in my mouth to test some stuff. And then they took an X-ray of my chest to see if like I have some gunk in there, to see if I have some bad stuff in there. And then finally, after all the tests, they called my name. They're like, "Oh, Chris." And then I sat down with the real doctor to hear my results. And so, of course, I asked my big question. I was like, "Doctor, why am I sick?" And then the doctor said, "Well, we looked at your COVID results and you don't have COVID." And I was like, "Uh-huh. Okay, but why am I sick?" And he said, "Well, we also looked at your influenza results and you don't have influenza." And I was like, "Okay. Okay, but why am I sick?" And he said, "Well, we also looked at your x-ray results and we didn't find any gunk in there, so I think your lungs are okay." And I was like, "Dude, doctor, why am I sick?" And doctor was like, "Well, we don't have any tests that show that you're sick." And I was like, "What?" And then the doctor was like, well, but maybe you have allergies." And there's something called kafunsho, and about 40% of people in Japan have it. So let's get you some medicine, and if things don't get better within a week, you can come back again, and we'll take another look. And I was thinking, like, dude, allergies, dude, there's no way. So again, kafunsho in English, like I guess it translates directly to hay fever, but actually instead of that, I just recommend the phrase allergies. So I have allergies and I got some medicine for it. And then in Japan, they give you like traditional Chinese medicine, like in addition to the Western medicine. So you get both. And then you also get a little sheet of paper that explains what each medicine is supposed to do. So it's pretty nice. They're like, "Oh, this is a painkiller, so it makes your pain go away. This one will help your stuffy nose." Like stuffy nose. That's a stuffy nose. So I took the medicine, and then like within a day, I was reborn. Okay, so I was completely recovered, 100% all good again. So my voice came back to normal. I didn't have a runny nose, and I didn't have a stuffy nose. And then I stopped coughing, and then because I stopped coughing, like I sleep better at night, and everything was just really really good. It was so wonderful. Okay, let's take a short little break. Okay, so just a short little summary. I went to the first clinic, fail. And then I went to the second clinic, fail. And then I went to the third clinic, fail. It's a breast cancer clinic. And then I went to the fourth clinic, and thank God it was a real clinic. And, it just turns out that I had like allergies, like seasonal allergies. And then I got some medicine and I was A-okay. So I was totally fine, all recovered. So, anyways, that was the story of my first time getting sick in Japan and going to a clinic. Not just one clinic, but four clinics. So it's kind of an embarrassing story, but at least it's kind of funny and it's stupid. Redo. Okay, last part. Let's go. Okay, so just a short little summary. I went to the first clinic, fail. And then I went to the second clinic, fail. And then I went to the third clinic, fail. And then I went to the fourth clinic, and thank God it was a real clinic. So it turns out I just had seasonal allergies or like allergies, and I got some medicine, and then I'm A-okay. So I'm all good to go. So, anyways, that was the story of my first time getting sick in Japan and going to a clinic. Not just one clinic, but four clinics. And it's kind of like an embarrassing story, but at least it's funny. And it's completely true. So, hopefully you guys had fun listening to how stupid I was. But actually, making mistakes is a big part of life. Sometimes it just happens, and that's okay. Like the most important thing is that you learn something from it and that you move on. Don't think too much about it. That's not good for you. And this whole story about me going to the wrong clinic in Japan, yeah, it's embarrassing and yeah, it's stupid, but that's in the past now. And now what we have is I have a pretty good funny story. So I can tell people, hey, you want to hear something dumb? And then I tell them the story and they laugh a little and we have a good time and then maybe we become friends. So usually there's like a plus side. You just have to look for it. And you know what else? I can tell the story in my English teaching podcast. So maybe someone out there is like folding laundry or like doing the dishes, and then they hear my story and they go, and that's all I want. That's what we do here in Kuli English Podcast. So with that, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you like this podcast or you want to support me, please share this episode with like a friend, anyone who you think might like it. And you don't need to give me your money. This is free. And of course, if you want to receive notifications for new episodes, you can follow or subscribe on whatever. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anything. And if you have a suggestion for a topic that you want me to talk about, definitely feel free to put it in a comment. I'll read each one. So anyways, best of luck with your English studies. Thanks again for listening to Kuli English Podcast.